How many people are in New York City?
8.5 million.
450,000 elect a mayor.
Yeah.
Can we do it some type of electoral college? Or is it too late to do something?
I read an article just before I got on with you that said the reason why, you know, the numbers are skewed toward younger voters is because it was too hot outside for older voters to come out.
Hey, it's Jordan with Status Coup.
This is Ashley with Status Coup.
On the ground.
In Philadelphia.
Flint, Michigan. East Palestine, Ohio. Please support the leading independent news outlet on the ground.
Covering what the corporate media covers up.
Hey, it's Jordan. So happy to be joined by India Walton. She was the Democratic nominee for mayor in Buffalo, which is the second largest city in New York State, and then had to run again after upsetting the incumbent mayor, Byron Brown, losing in the general election. But you won a historic victory in the primary. In most cases, that in a Democrat city, that leads to victory in the general. But you had a pretty unprecedented second campaign against you, which I was on the ground for some of it in Buffalo in 2021. So now, you know, some folks in New York City and beyond are saying, you know, they might India Walton, Zohran Mamdani. So I figured, why not talk to India Walton? Before we get to Zohran, I want to remind folks, you were a longtime organizer, still are in Buffalo, went up against the entrenched establishment mayor, Byron Brown. By all accounts, he didn't take you seriously. A lot of the political establishment didn't take you seriously during the primary. You know, labeled you socialist, which has not changed as a favorite. And you won. When you see Zohran Mamdani's campaign in New York City, what are some kind of similarities and differences you've seen from what you were able to accomplish? You won by over 1,000 votes in the primary.
You know, I think a lot of the similarities are, you know, some of it is about scale, right? New York City is just so much bigger than Buffalo, but I mean, the organizing effort. It was an organizing effort. He had more than 40,000 volunteers. They knocked more than 1 million doors. And, you know, we used the same strategy here in Buffalo at a much smaller scale, with hundreds of volunteers knocking thousands of doors. But I think that's what matters, right? The other side has a ton of money. They're going to blast the airwaves and television. They're going to put misinformation into mailboxes. And the way that you combat that is with one-on-one, face-to-face conversations. And that's always has been and will remain the most effective tool in electoral organizing.
And not to give you campaign PTSD, but for those that aren't familiar with your campaign, I want to show a clip from when I was there. Kind of shows a flavor of your campaign, which was very David versus Goliath. This is during the general election, months after that historic win.
When I tell you I've been doing this for more than a year now, and our team has not stopped. We have not rested. I know that we got super volunteers out here right now that know after we won the primary, we took like 3 days off and we was right back out on doors, right? We're not taking anything for granted. We are not resting our laurels. We're going to celebrate the small victories. Yes, we will. We love to celebrate in the Indy Walton campaign. We loves ourselves a party. We're going to celebrate the small victories. But I think what is special about this campaign is that it is made up of workers. We are used to working hard. We are moms, we are dads, we are hairdressers and teachers and small business owners. We are warriors, right? We are used to doing it the hard way because nothing has come to us easy. And I know that what we are trying to do is not going to be easy. It's a lot of people who don't want to see it happen. It's a lot of people with a lot of money who don't want to see it happen. But one thing I know is that organized people can win against organized money. That's just a fact. That's how we won the prime. I mean, I'm going to keep saying, I'm not going to stop saying, we unseated a 16-year, 4-term incumbent with an all-volunteer campaign.
I wanted to show that because you said, you know, organized people beats organized money. I mean, they had Republicans interfering in your general election to put Byron Brown over the top. Unions, which typically endorse the Democratic nominee, wouldn't endorse you. I mean, I was on the ground there. The media was very skewed against you. A lot of fear tactics. I mean, they were even using your name in the most recent Democratic primary to try and tag the candidate there with being linked to you, and he won. Let me ask you, I mean, you mentioned it on a smaller scale, Buffalo, but it seems like Zohran Mamdani is going to be up against what you were up against times 10, because there's been a Wall Street media, even Democratic Party meltdown at, I think, some mild, like more social democrat ideas than full scale socialism.
They are so ridiculous. And I mean, the Democrats and the way they're weird is beyond disappointing. And when we think about the Democrats losing the Senate, the House, the Supreme Court, and the presidency because they don't know how to talk to voters, and then you have a person like Zohran who has a message that's wildly popular, that's wildly resonant. He has the largest primary vote total in 40 years since the Dinkins campaign. And the mainstream Democrats are like, I don't know. Let me think about it. Maybe I'll get behind him. Maybe I'll take this other dude who's just been indicted. Like, it's ridiculous. And Zohran's going to win. I think one of the major differences between Buffalo and New York City is New York City has public campaign financing. So for every dollar that Zohran won, he got $3. So he was much more competitive when it came to campaign finances. And then just his experience as an assembly person, and having sort of that electoral experience. And I think that was a great benefit to him. But also, he's just a great communicator. He's such an effective communicator. Even when he's being attacked, he has this way of calling the person in, and this sort of welcoming warmth when he's telling a person that they're absolutely wrong, and correcting them. That doesn't seem standoffish or angry.
Right.
It's like you can't help but like him.
And, one thing I see similarities, again, on a smaller scale, just because of the population difference. In your campaign, you and your volunteers knocked on doors, went to parts of Buffalo that people hadn't gone to in decades. Mamdani's campaign, same thing. They campaigned in areas where they voted for Trump in 2024, campaigned in areas where people don't vote. I remember even just doing a tour of Buffalo. We did a video on it showing the difference between the more wealthy North Buffalo area that had a lot of Byron Brown campaign signs, and then parts of the East Side that people traditionally didn't go to, which you're from and had a lot of your signs. Can you kind of talk about, I mean, he's now going to have to face Eric Adams, possibly Andrew Cuomo. Who knows what else they throw at him? Talk more about that kind of organizing, door knocking, canvassing, and reaching voters that are apathetic and, haven't voted in a long time.
Yeah, that's going to be critical. It's going to be key. And I think that, a part of what I learned from 2021 is I think that, we sort of wanted to become friendlier with the dominant Democratic Party, thinking that was going to win us more votes. And I think that we did alienate a big part of our base. And a lot of people felt like because I was ready to, I wouldn't even say compromise, right? It gave the appearance that I was compromising. People thought that the message was just another politician selling a dream. And my hope and what I've been seeing so far from Zohran is that he's just been staying on message, right? He hasn't been trying to soften his language or his stances. And I think the message is just simple, right? Rent freeze, free and fast buses, municipal grocery stores, practical things that, like, you can't really attack that. Where I came out very early saying that, I wanted to reallocate money from the police department and put it into mental health services. And I think that even though that is also a very practical idea, especially considering that we had done research and there were like vacancies and, positions that could have been eliminated through attrition and all of these things, my opposition was able to take that and twist it around and make it seem like a scary thing. And they were able to illegally use uniformed police officers in commercials. And when people see that on the TV, it lends a certain amount of credibility to it that discredited a lot of what I was trying to say and do. And I think that Zohran has just been so on top of and ahead of the message. And, his TikToks and explainer videos are so informative. And I think, because there are so many people having conversations and there's so much energy around the campaign, it's going to be more successful to keep those attacks at bay and people see it for what it is. And that's racist, it's bigoted, it's Islamophobic. And I think that people are really seeing it at its face value as a personal attack and not really being able to mount an attack against what he stands for, what he's trying to do, because there's nothing wrong with it.
And, I wonder what you think, like anything else in life, timing is important. Your race was in 2021. It was fresh off of getting rid of Trump nationally. But, do you think perhaps that after a once in a century pandemic, the worst of inflation, people needed to get even more pissed off? We needed so many more years past your election to get to this point where, New Yorkers are just fed up, including with the Democratic Party, which nationally they feel is not fighting Trump. And it kind of gave more of an opening for a candidate like Zohran in your mold.
I think it's a both and, right? I think that the messaging worked in 2021 and it's working in 2025. I think that the difference is that I wasn't necessarily like, you can't educate people while you're running, right? I think that the electorate in New York City has a little bit more sophistication and there's been a little bit more time to focus on the message that's coming through and not having the label of democratic socialism placed on top. Zohran came out of the gate. I'm an immigrant democratic socialist. There's nothing they can use against him. When I ran on affordable housing, on all of these things about affordability and economic success in Buffalo. And then after I won the primary, they said, "Oh, but you're a democratic socialist, right?" Because I have been endorsed by the DSA. And because I'm an honest person, I'm like, yeah, absolutely. Right. But that was the soundbite that they used for this whole scary socialist thing. She's going to take away your rights to own property. She's going to close businesses. It's going to be so bad. And it was too late then to educate the public about what democratic socialism is and is not.
Right. I want to play this clip. Among many media, CNBC, which is basically Wall Street TV, has been melting down, and they had an interesting reaction now to his victory.
How many people are in New York City?
8.5 million.
450,000.
Yeah.
Elect a mayor.
Yeah.
Can we do it some type of electoral college, or is it too late to do something?
So if you guys remember, I don't know if it was the last time I was on, but not too long ago, I came on to talk about mobile voting, and out of my foundation, I've been building technology that we're going to put up on GitHub and make free to any government that wants it.
This wouldn't happen.
To give it away. If exactly. So 5% of the city's population effectively chose the next mayor. If we had mobile voting, odds are all of these people who probably didn't vote would at least have the ability to do so. And it's not just that we'd have more turnout, we'd have better candidates.
So I found that very interesting because I've covered a lot of elections, New York, Buffalo, Cleveland, Detroit, you name it. Usually Democrats love low turnout elections when they're establishment corporate Democrats win. They shame you if you're a lefty, a progressive, to fall in line. Don't waste your vote. But now when a Democratic Socialist won, pretty dominating. The results are out now for the full election. He won over 50% of the vote. Really crushed Cuomo. You have people saying, "Oh, maybe we should change it to an electoral college." You have people, "Hey, let's throw our weight behind the indicted the indicted criminal mayor. By the way, Trump today openly said, I quote, did a favor for current Mayor Eric Adams.
No, you have a good independent running, Mayor Adams, who's a very good person. I helped him out a little bit. He had a problem, and he was unfairly hurt over this question.
People pushing potentially other candidates in there, people trying to push the Republican nominee, Curtis Lewa, out of the way. It sure seems like they love democracy and cherish democracy if it's with a corporate Democrat winning, and anything else we'll tweak things around and try to throw monkey wrenches in there.
Well, I read an article just before I got on with you that said it was too hot. It was so, like, the reason why, you know, the numbers are skewed toward younger voters is because it was too hot outside for older voters to come out. Well, no, it's because Zohran had a message that motivated young people to get out and vote because they're tired. They're sick of the status quo. You know, their parents, or at this point, their grandparents, were able to go to college and survive with a part-time job. And here they are with a college degree, $100,000 in student debt, and 2 jobs, and they can't even afford their 1-bedroom flat that they're sharing with 3 other people in New York City, right? So, like, it's not about low turnout. It's not about, you know, the weather. It's about a populist message of economic survival, that people are looking forward to seeing the material conditions of their lives improve.
Right. You know, I'd like to ask you a broader question, and I'm sure you thought about this when you thought maybe you had a chance to actually, you know, be elected. But I see a pattern, you know, dating back all the way to 2008. I was hoodwinked. A lot of people were hoodwinked. Thought Obama was progressive. I mean, he built at the time a historic digital army, and then he got elected and didn't do anything with them. Bernie, 2016, historic underdog campaign, and surprised a lot of people. After he dropped out, he didn't really utilize his volunteer army that much. Same thing in 2020. His Slack channel in his 2020 campaign was bigger than the national DSA, but he dropped out. Everybody kind of splintered. I mean, we could go down the list. Obviously, people are excited and focused on electing Mamdani as mayor. But if he wins, I mean, to me, that's only like half the battle, because you're going to be up against Wall Street, the real estate developers, the governor, who's already said she will not approve. Kathy Hochul from Buffalo would not approve.
No, she's
excuse me. Will not approve a tax increase on corporations or the wealthy. I mean, a progressive socialist mayor would need an army for continued pressure. How do you view, you know, if he is elected, what the fight after that would be?
You know, I think what I feel and see, you know, as sort of an outsider to the New York City political landscape, is that there is the New York City DSA is sort of this built-in accountability mechanism and organizing mechanism as well, where they will be able to successfully provide him with the political cover that's required to do a lot of the things that he wants to do. And, you know, outside of electoral politics, one of the things that the DSA is really good at is running issue-based campaigns and making sure that people know what the issues are and why we're asking for the rent freeze and who it impacts, or why fast and free buses are possible. Your tax dollars are already paying for them as a public utility. Like, this is something that you should be expecting. You know, and I think that he also has amassed enough of a coalition within state government and city government. I mean, you know, Brad Lander, Tish James, Jumaane Williams, you know, a number of downstate assembly members and senators also. I think it ain't gonna be easy, but I think that he does have enough support and enough of a coalition to make sure that he's got a successful administration going.
And last question for you. Obviously, you're still involved with politics. What's your message to, you know, progressives, lefties around the country that might have been inspired by your race, might have been inspired by his race, whether it's running themselves or themselves getting organized. I mean, short of Trump illegally staying in office a third time, which he might do, considering all the other things he's doing, I think this is a real opening right now for the left in America. You got Republicans screaming at town halls, tax the rich. You got a lot of normie Democrats out at these protests and ranting against the Democratic Party. What's your message? Do you have optimism about the broader movement right now?
Run. I mean, and if you're not the one to run, work on a campaign, learn how to use Van, learn how to run fields, learn how to do campaign finance. You know, what we're up against is hundreds of years of Democratic establishment and infrastructure. And what we lack is some of the simple things, right? How do you find a campaign manager when everybody is in the consultant class working for the DNC, right? So, you know, let's upskill ourselves, learn how to run field operations, continue organizing, and be bold with it. Be brave, and know that the progressive movement is a national movement. We don't have little small pocketed silos, right? So if I have to go down and knock doors for Zohran or make calls for Zohran or raise money for Zohran, I have to do that to support him. And you in your small town in Ohio or wherever you are, you need to find yourself a network and get plugged in and allow people in other places to help you because we want to.
And I will say, not to blow smoke up your butt, but up against it, you got 40% of the vote in the general election in the second biggest city in New York, and you were badly outspent in the general election. So you had two historic.
In this year, I polled over 50% among registered Democrats. I polled higher than anybody who was in the primary election for mayor of Buffalo this year, and I wasn't even running.
Well, I hope we see you in the future. Thank you, India Walton, for giving us your insight, and let's stay in touch.
Absolutely.